Hello, dear friends. My computer crashed from using it so much, and I'm working with my emergency equipment. Anyone who has been through a computer crash knows what I mean, but it was controlled trauma. I haven't panicked at this point in the movie. Opinion piece. Trusts. Three famous trusts. Story by James Rink. Global trusts. White Spiritual Boy Trust, Saint Germain and Rodriguez Trust. They are held by the Templars. History of the Gesara Trusts. Let's start. James Rink, producer of the excellent documentary Change is on the Horizon, told the story many years ago of how a group of influential people envisioned a period of time in the future where the world would one day be blessed with peace and prosperity, what we now commonly call the Gesara Plan. To prepare for this era of abundance, these wealthy individuals secretly hid significant amounts of wealth, protecting it for decades, so that one day their contributions could be used to help rebuild humankind. That first day they had long predicted is almost here. Within that group, the best known of these special beings was the controversial character of Saint Germain, who would appear throughout periods of history to assist humankind in this effort. Within the collection of trust, the two best known are the Saint Germain Trust and the Rodriguez Trust. However, there is another trust that has been much more protected from the public spotlight, which holds such a significant amount of wealth, mainly in the form of gold, that it could not only generate Gesara on its own, but could also be used to back 10 times all the currency of Earth. The name of this trust is White Spiritual Boy. Legend. Legend has it that a very spiritual boy born in the Philippines but growing up in Africa had a divine vision in which evil people planned to plunder the natural resources and rob the people. As in the Saint Germain and Rodriguez trusts, a substantial amount of wealth was held in his name to be used for worldwide humanitarian aid. In addition, the distribution and use of white spiritual boys funds were to be connected to a time of worldwide ascension and the spiritual known as the Great Awakening. In addition, white spiritual boy was to be used to back new world currencies with gold and other valuable assets. This was planned in an agreement reached between Indonesian President Sukarno and President JFK, which began in 1961 and was finally agreed upon in 1963. President Kennedy had already authorized through Executive Order 11110 the printing of silver certificates and was said to have given authorization for the printing of silver certificates and was said to have given authorization to return to the gold standard on November 14, 1963. Many believe that this bold initiative is what caused his assassination only a week later. Established between 1966 and 1968, the owners of White Spiritual Boy authorized the deposit of huge sums of money in virtually every bank in the world in every country, mainly in the form of gold. It was stipulated that when the deposits were made, there would be a 30-year maturity with a 4% interest rate earned on the money, and that when the funds matched, the proceeds would be divided in half, where 50% would be mandatorily used for humanitarian purposes, and the other 50% would be reinvested according to the original terms, so that there could be a perpetual flow of income for the benefit of humankind. Instead, what some banks did was to add these deposits to their capital base and use them to trade and generate business that would produce a huge amount of money for the banks themselves. In short, they did not follow the mandatory requirements, kept all the money earned to distribute it among the elite, and tried to claim that this money never existed. In the last decades, the ownership and management of White Spiritual Boy was transferred to a sovereign entity known as International Consumer Cooperative Light Great Russia, which was a sovereign entity and a society established in 2018, completely independent of international laws. This new entity came under the control of the Order of the Hospitallers, a branch of the Templars. Novel. A novel can be part fiction and part fact. According to William de Burgh's White Spiritual Boy, a late-night phone call to Pacific Group analyst Raquel Ecom turns out to be the beginning of a harrowing 6 months in which she ends up in the middle of high-stakes international financial battle. The editor who called her turns out to be a member of the White Dragon family, a group of wealthy Asians trying to reclaim some of the wealth they believe was stolen from them by the West. The dragons have 1 or 2 sets of maps that can help recover General Yamashita's famous gold and seek Raquel's help in negotiating the other set, knowing that she is the widowed daughter-in-law of one of the most powerful bankers. She ends up traveling to the Philippines, where she meets leading members of the Dragon family, visits a newly opened Yamashita site, and reconnects with her father's family. William de Burgh is the pen name of an American author who, by virtue of his first book, Serpent and Saber, and now with White Spiritual Boy, was established himself as a master of conspiracy fiction. Definition: a trust is a disposition by which the testator leaves his estate or part of it entrusted to the good faith of someone, so that in a determined case at time he may transmit it to another person or invest it in the manner indicated. A trust is a contract by virtue of which one or more persons transfers properties, sums of money or rights, present or future, of their property to another fiduciary person, who may be a natural or juridical person, so that the latter may administer or invest the property for his own benefit or for the benefit of a third party, called beneficiary, and the property is transferred upon compliance with a term of condition to the trustee, who may be the trustor, the beneficiary, or another person. Once the trust has been perfected, none of the parties is the owner of the property that is the object of the trust. The trust is, therefore, a contract by which a person called settlor allocates certain assets to specific lawful purpose, entrusting the realization of that purpose to a fiduciary institution, which at a certain time or upon fulfillment of the condition imposed by the grantor of the assets must deliver to the beneficiary the fruits or products generated by the activity. The assets assigned to the trust are not at the commercial risk of the person transferring ownership of the assets or of the owner of the assets after the expiration of the term of the contract. since the assets that are the subject of the trust cannot be pursued by the creditors of either of them, nor be affected by the bankruptcy of both or either of them. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.